Good morning, kiddos. Let's go ahead and jump into our Bat and the Waiting Game, chapters 17 and 18 today. Party games. Remember, Israel has come over for a sleepover, and Janie's having girls over her house as well, so Bat felt lonely and left out, so Mom went ahead and let him have Israel come over. Hey, do you want to play a game with us? Janie had opened the door without knocking, which she knew wasn't allowed. You forgot to knock, Bat said. Janie rolled her eyes. Okay, then I guess you don't want to play with us, she said, and began to close the door. Wait, Israel said, jumping to his feet. I want to play. He followed Janie into the hallway, turning to say, Come on, Bat. Bat checked on Thor before he followed. Inside the playpen, inside the kitty carrier, the tip of the skunk's tail poked out from the flannel blanket that Thor liked to sleep inside. Bat closed the bedroom door behind him and followed Israel and Janie down the hall. The living room was a mess. Janie's three friends sat on a nest they'd made of all the couch cushions. The coffee table was shoved to one side, paper plates of half-eaten pizza and paper cups full of juice littered all over. So this is my brother Bat and his friend Israel, Janie said, and these are my friends Karina, Maggie, and Frida. She pointed at each of the three girls as she said their names. Hi, said Israel with a little wave. Then he elbowed Bat. Ouch, Bat said. Say hello, Israel whispered. Hello, Bat said. Oh, your brother is adorable, Janie, said one of the girls, Maggie, from the pillow pile. Bat's face felt hot and prickly, and he shifted his weight from one foot to the other. Are you guys going to play with us? Said Frida. What's the game? Said Israel. His voice sounded unusually squeaky to Bat. Why do you think that is? Why would Israel's voice get squeaky? Think about your responses. It's called Two Truths and a Lie. Have you ever played? Janie asked. Bat shook his head no, and so did Israel. It's fun, said Frida. You just think of two things that are true about you and one lie. Then you say all three of them and try to hide which one is the lie. Then everyone guesses which one the lie is. And if you fool everyone, you get a prize. What's the prize? Asked Bat. A bag of gummies, Janie said, holding up a clear plastic bag full of gummies. Okay, said Israel, we'll play. He flopped down on one of the cushions. Bat sat next to him. I'll go first, said Maggie. Like the other girls, she was dressed in pajamas. Maggie's were the kind with the built-in feet and a hood, and she wore the hood up on her head. There were tiger stripes, and the hood had tiger ears. Let's see, said Maggie. I don't know how to ride a bicycle. I am allergic to shellfish, and I have 13 pets. You have 13 pets, Bat said excitedly. What kind of pets? Bat said, Janie, you can't ask questions. That's not how the game works. We have to guess which one of the three things is a lie. I hope it's true that you have 13 pets, Bat said to Maggie. She smiled. Okay, said Frida, I think it's true that she's allergic to shellfish, because that's a weird thing to make up. Janie nodded, but Israel said, I think she's lying about not knowing how to ride a bike. Who doesn't know how to ride a bike? Then Karina said, well, actually, my mom never learned how to ride a bike until she was a grown-up. She just never wanted to know when she was a kid. That's crazy, Israel said. I love riding my bike. It's the best, especially down hills, up hills, not so much. If you live out in the country where we live, and a lot of our friends, our neighborhood's along the river, but we're surrounded by cow farms, and then further down, there's less and less civilization. Some of our friends and Shane's friends live like in the middle of nowhere. And one of his friends did not learn to ride a bike until he started bringing his bike to our neighborhood so that he could learn to ride it, because out in the country, there was nowhere for him to ride his bike. So he learned to ride his bike at 9 years old. Then he and Frida started talking about the really big hill over by the high school and how hard it was to ride up and how much fun it was to ride down, until Bat interrupted. I think the shellfish thing is the lie, he said, mostly because he really wanted the 13 animals to be true. Okay, who votes shellfish? Janie asked. And Bat, Israel, Janie, Karina, and Frida all raised their hands. We think the lie is about you being allergic to shellfish, Janie said to Maggie. She shook her head and grinned. Nope. I really am allergic to shellfish. They make the inside of my mouth feel itchy and I break into hives. Janie tossed a bag of gummies to Maggie, who caught it. So what's the lie? Israel asked. It's the animal thing, Maggie admitted. I don't have 13 pets. I have 14. You have 14 pets, Bat said. What kind? We have 5 chickens and 2 dogs and 7 fish. My brother Jasper has a saltwater tank. I want to go next, Bat said. Okay, said Janie. Bat thought for a minute. He didn't like to lie. He really didn't. It made him feel uncomfortable and sort of itchy, but since this was a game, he wanted to make it a really good lie. When he was ready, he said, my favorite fruit is grapes, the green ones. When I grow up, I'm going to be a firefighter, and I have a baby skunk in my room. Then he pointed at Janie and Israel and said, you guys can't play because you know the truths already. Okay, Bat, said Janie, rolling her eyes again. It's the skunk one, said Maggie. He just said that because of my pet lie. No one has a skunk for a pet. Bat tried really hard not to smile. Karina said lots of kids want to be firefighters and everyone likes grapes. I think the skunk thing is the lie too. Skunks are gross, said Frida. So they all voted that the lie was about having a baby skunk in his room. And Bat practically burst with excitement. No, that's the truth. I really do have a baby skunk in my room. His name is Thor. Then no one cared about which thing was the lie, being a fighter, of course, because Bat was definitely going to be a veterinarian like his mom. And Janie's friends begged him to show them the skunk, even Frida, who had just said that she thought they were gross. Okay, said Bat, I'll go get him. So when he went to his room and scooped up the sleeping kit, blanket and all, and went back into the living room. You have to be quiet and slow with him, or else he'll be scared. I'll hold him and you can pet his head. And then he walked around the circle of kids, showing Thor to each of them. Thor widened his mouth in an adorable yawn, and Janie's friends said, "Oh, ah," and told Bat how cute Thor was. Even Janie took a turn petting Thor's head, and then, because it is what a good friend would do, Bat let Israel carry Thor back to his enclosure. Look how much Bat has changed and all the things he has overcome as a result of having this skunk kit. Do you feel like, and this is just something you can discuss in your own head, do you feel that Bat, having autism and his aversion to people and crowds and noises and all these things that he doesn't like, would have ever walked around a room full of girls and done these things and played this game were it not for Thor bringing him slowly out of his shell and allowing him to become friends with Israel? So it all goes back to taking care of this baby skunk. Chapter 18, Best Friends. After Bat put Thor away, Janie got all bossy and told the boys that she and her friends were going to watch a movie and that boys definitely wouldn't like it. But when Bat asked what movie, she wouldn't even say. How can you know what we won't like if you won't even let us watch? What about the time I said I didn't like pigs in a blanket before I tried it, and you made me have a bite of yours, and it turned out I really liked it a lot? Do you remember that time? I remember, Bat, Janie said with her mouth in a flat line. But that is different. You boys can watch a movie in my room if you want, Mom offered. Her bedroom was the only one with a TV in it. But Bat wanted to stay in the living room and ask Maggie more about her pets. What kinds of dogs did she have? How did her brother make sure that the salt water in his fish tank had just the right amount of salt? Did the fish ever try to eat each other? Bat had heard that sometimes fish tank fish hate each other. Come on, Bat. Let's go hang out in your room. Bat followed reluctantly. So another connection. My oldest daughter used to have a fish tank in her bedroom, and she had 5 fish in there. And one day we came in and there was only one, and he was really big and fat. So I think you can figure out what happened. When they got back to Bat's room, Israel said, I think your sister was ready to have her friends back to herself. What? Bat said. but she invited us out there to play the game with them. That's because you need more people for a game to be fun. She doesn't need us to make watching a movie more fun. Bat thought about that then. Then why didn't she just tell us she was done with us? Israel laughed. Because that would be rude. Watch. And then he pretended to be Janie. He put his hand on his hips the way Janie sometimes did and rolled his eyes like Janie sometimes did. Bat, I am sick of you and your friend. I don't need you anymore. Now go. The game is over. Go away, please. Then he dropped his arms and grinned, and he said, see? Rude. That's a terrible Janie impression, Bat said. Israel hadn't changed his voice at all, and Janie always said Bat in a long, drawn-out way when she was annoyed with him. Bat looked at Israel. He liked the way Israel's hair was sort of fluffy and sort of curly and sort of long, but not all the way fluffy or curly or long. He liked how Israel wore his shirts, loose and never tucked in, and he liked how Israel almost always kept his voice low and gentle. There was a lot to like about Israel. You are my best friend, Bat said. Israel grinned. Really? I didn't think you liked me that much. Why would you think that? Bat asked, bewildered. Well, said Israel, when you are at my house, you seem more interested in my dad's truck or my mom's art studio than you are with playing with me. It was true that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when Bat went over to Israel's house after school, he used the chance to ask Israel's parents the questions he liked. Like, how did a pottery wheel work? Answer, centrifugal force, because by the spinning of the wheel made the clay move outward from the center. And we're going to learn about that in science next. Things like that, force and motion. And what was the heaviest thing Tom had ever towed with his big black truck? Answer, a broken down RV that belonged to one of Tom's friends. But those questions didn't mean that Bat didn't think Israel was his best friend. You have interesting parents, Bat said. Thanks, I guess, Israel said. You're interesting too, Bat said, even if you're not a professional potter or even though you don't own a big black truck. This made Israel laugh. Thanks, Bat, Israel said. I think you're interesting too. Even if you didn't have a skunk kit, I'd still like you anyway. Really, Bat said. Bat felt kind of shy and happy at the same time. Really, Israel answered. Bat smiled. Then he said, speaking of Thor, do you want to see if we can teach him some tricks? Yes, said Israel. Yes, I do. So the next chapter will be chapter 19 and 20. And let's see, guys. I can't remember how many chapters we have. So I think this book will take us all the way through the next lesson in our science unit 2, which is on animal habitats. So right now, Thor's habitat is in Bat's room in a cage enclosure, but his natural habitat would be out in the wild, roaming around the woods and people's yards and things like that. So he is not in his natural habitat. He is in a man-made habitat at the time. But Bat does try to keep it semi-natural for him by feeding him the milk similar to what his mom would feed him and keeping him all snuggled like he would be if he were burrowed under leaves and things. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and I look forward to getting some more assignments from you. Bye.